I came from Mars, and I have a warning for you. This was the first sentence 7-year-old Boriska Kipriyanovich said to Russian scientists. The year was 2004, Volgograd, Russia, a dark winter night. Professor Gennady Belimov looked at the child and laughed. From Mars, what's it like? Boriska looked at him with such a gaze. It was as if a 1,000-year-old soul was looking back. Red, everything is red, and now it's dead. Because of us, that moment, that first crack, Professor Belimov's smile froze, because what Boriska said wasn't childish fantasy. It was geology, atmospheric physics, nuclear disaster scenarios. And now NASA was listening. Volgograd, Russia, January 11th, 1996. Nadezhda Kipriyanovich gave birth to her son Boriska. A normal birth, a normal baby, but on the first night, something happened. The nurse brought the baby to his mother. Mrs. Kipriyanovich, your son is looking at me. Nadezhda laughed. All babies look around. No, I mean he's really looking. As if he were an adult, and he really was. Boriska's blue eyes scanned everyone in the room. He seemed to be examining, evaluating, recognizing them. 8 months old, Boriska spoke his first words. But not Mama or Papa, star. He was pointing at the window. Stars. Home. That's home. Nadezhda looked at her husband. Yuri, the baby is 8 months old. How can he form sentences? Yuri shrugged. Maybe he's a genius. But Boriska wasn't just talking. He was reading. At 2 years old, Nadezhda found Boriska in the living room surrounded by books. Old astronomy books, in Russian, English, some in Latin. Boriska was flipping through the pages. Boriska, can you read? The child looked up. Yes, Mom, but these books are wrong. Mars' atmosphere wasn't like that. Nadezhda froze. Mars' atmosphere. How do you know that? Boriska smiled. Because I lived there. 2003, Boriska was 7 years old. He was constantly talking about Mars now, but these weren't just childhood fantasies. Technical details, geological formations, atmospheric composition. At dinner one evening, Mars' atmosphere is 95% carbon dioxide. But it wasn't always like that. We used to have oxygen. Yuri put down his spoon. Boriska, you're 7 years old. How do you know these things? Because I was a scientist there. I was 34 years old. And we made a mistake. What mistake? Boriska's eyes filled with tears. War. Nuclear war. We destroyed our own planet. February 2004, Boriska's story spread throughout Russia. Professor Gennady Belimov Institute of Social Adaptation began researching. First session, Boriska, can you tell me about Mars? Boriska, a 7-year-old child, began to describe it in such detail that Belimov took 40 pages of notes. The surface of Mars is red because of iron oxide. But 500,000 years ago, there was water. There were oceans. Olympus Mons was active, a volcano. The atmospheric pressure is now 600 pascals, but it used to be 101,000 pascals. It was almost like Earth. Belimov was stunned that this information was very close to NASA's data on Mars research. But Boriska had never used the internet. There was no computer at home. Boriska, who lived on Mars, us, humanoids, but taller, around 7 meters. Gravity was low. We lived underground. Radiation was too high on the surface. We had large cities inside Valles Marineris, a 4,000 kilometers long canyon. Belimov felt his hair stand on end. The child was describing places NASA had recently discovered. Boriska, what happened to Mars? The child's voice broke. War. There were two nations. One in the north, one in the south. We fought for energy, for water, for the last resources. And then one of them used a nuclear weapon. What happened? The atmosphere vaporized. The oceans froze. Radiation covered everything. Millions of people died. Some of us took refuge in underground cities, but it wasn't enough. Mars died, and we had to escape. Where did you escape to? Boriska looked up at the sky. To Earth. Here, to be reborn. Belimov asked Boriska another question. Do you know anything about Earth? Boriska became excited. Yes, the Great Sphinx in Egypt. How do you know about the Sphinx? Because we made it. When we came from Mars, there were primitive people on Earth. We gave them knowledge. What's special about the Sphinx? Boriska whispered. There's a secret room behind the Sphinx's ear. The door is vertical, behind the ear. There's information inside. Information about Mars and something else. What? The secret of life, the secret of the soul. How we traveled between planets, 2007. Boriska's story spread to international media. Pravda, BBC, Discovery Channel, and then a retired scientist from NASA got involved. Dr. Robert Harrington, I want to examine this child. October 2007, Dr. Harrington flew to Russia. He spoke with Boriska for 3 days. Dr. Harrington showed Boriska high-resolution photos of Mars. Images taken by NASA's Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter satellite. They were taken in 2006. They had not yet been made public. Boriska, do you recognize anything in these pictures? Boriska examined the photos and paused. This is the Cydonia region, near Acidalia Planitia. This hill is not a pyramid. It was the ventilation shaft of an underground city. Dr. Harrington's heart raced. NASA's theory was the same, that hill might not be natural, but this information was classified. Boriska pointed to another photo. Olympus Mons, the largest volcano in the solar system. Dr. Harrington, yes, 21 kilometers high. Boriska shook his head, but it wasn't a volcano. What? It was our main power plant. Geothermal energy. It looks volcanic because we went down to the magma. Dr. Harrington shuffled his papers. There was an anomaly in NASA's 2005 report. Some tunnels on Olympus Mons looked very regular, almost artificial. Boriska, what do you know about Phobos? Phobos, Mars' largest moon in a very close orbit. Phobos isn't natural. We made it. Dr. Harrington paused. Are you saying it's artificial? Yes, it's hollow. It was a space station. Then we abandoned it during the war. Dr. Harrington, where did you learn this theory? Boriska, it's not a theory. It's a memory. On the last day, Dr. Harrington asked, Boriska, why did you come here? Why did you reincarnate on Earth? Boriska, with a serious face, because you are about to make the same mistake. What mistake? Nuclear weapons. We did it too. And we destroyed Mars. Now you are doing it. You could destroy Earth. I came to warn you. Dr. Harrington, so what should we do? Unite. Nations should not fight because your enemy is not outside. The real danger is yourselves, 10 years later. In 2017, NASA made an important announcement. We have found definitive evidence of an ancient ocean on Mars. 3.7 billion years ago, the surface of Mars was covered in liquid water. What Boriska said. 11 years ago, when he was 7 years old. 2018 ESA European Space Agency Mars Express satellite detected strange structures on Olympus Mons. The tunnels are very regular. It's hard to believe they are natural formations. What Boriska said. 14 years ago. 2020, the Russian space agency Roscosmos remeasured Phobos density. Result, it's probably hollow inside. Exactly what Boriska said. Boriska is now 28 years old. He lives in Moscow. He studied astrophysics. But he no longer remembers Mars, or perhaps he doesn't want to remember. In a 2023 interview, "My memories of Mars are now blurry, like a dream. But I still remember one thing." What? A warning. Nuclear weapons could destroy humanity. Mars is our proof. Dr. Robert Harrington died in 2010. But before he died, he wrote a 300-page report. Boriska Kipriyanovich, Mars Reincarnation or Incredible Genius. In the conclusion, this child accessed information NASA has yet to disclose. There are two possibilities. 1. Telepathy, psychic abilities. 2. Real memories, another life, another planet. Science does not accept the second one. But the evidence is disturbing. 2020. Egypt. Archaeologists scanned the Sphinx with radar. Result. There is an unknown cavity behind the Sphinx's ear. Exactly where Boriska described it. The Egyptian government did not open the chamber. More research is needed, they said. But some are asking, could there really be something inside? Information from Mars? NASA is planning a manned mission to Mars in 2033. The goal to explore Olympus Mons and Valles Marineris. Scientists are asking, could Boriska be right? Was there an ancient civilization on Mars? 2020 for interview? People ask me, are you really from Mars? I don't know anymore. Maybe it's a dream, maybe it's real, but I know one thing. Mars was once alive, and now it's dead. Earth is alive and in danger. Nuclear weapons, climate change, wars. We did the same thing on Mars. And now here I am, maybe to remind, maybe to warn, or maybe to give a second chance. Mars is waiting. The answers are there.